Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TEDXcellence, the series in which I explore the weird and wonderful world of pseudo-intellectual double talk in order to maintain my sanity while in my Corona bunker on the moon with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the slightly refurbished Corona bunker on the moon. I decided to give it a little bit of an upgrade, maybe. Tell me what you think. I got a porthole. I got a new screen frame. Got a new background. I might change these up every once in a while just for the heck of it. But hey, here it is. So, boy oh boy, welcome to Thursday, or Friday Eve, as I've heard so many people call it before. Yeah, I don't know. Here we are, once again. Thank you, Pinkalo the Driving Ape Man. A here arrow. Yes, you are here. You are here, I acknowledge your here-ness. As well as all of you that decided to join me today, including the Dead Kaiser, hello. This is Kyle, hello. Zauble, hello. Will It Forge, hello. Maniac Man 2030, hello. Mike Savage, Blarg. W.R. Costin, hello. Havoc Vladimirovich Stalinov, hello. Soraya, hello. Death Glock, hello. Spy Demand, hello. Attila Pakzur, hello. Samanyum Nation, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Functional, hello. Loki Lycan, hello. That one servant of Satania, hello. Dr. No, hello. Viror of Ashmedai, hello. Papa Frank, hello. Hearst Gravegear, hello. No One Nowhere, hello. Angela Ariaga, hello. Mr. Hugh, hello. Dax Orion, hello. Morphic States, hello. Yaseo, hello. Officer Buck Tud Russell, hello. Aspie Auntie, hello. Ash B, hello. Fernanda, hello. Reason Vision, hello. The Pissed Off Shih Tzu, hello. And your boy Pat, hello. All right, guys. Well, what do we have today? Well, I am assuming that this is another entry in the wonderful world of restorative justice. I don't know that for a fact since I haven't listened to it, but signs point to probably. But we'll see. Who knows? But the official title is Reimagining Justice. Reimagining Justice. So you might forgive me if I end up being wrong on my assumption, given the title about restorative justice. Let's see. So, per usual, start off with a little sound test to make sure everybody can hear this, and then we will begin. So please let me know if you can hear this.
So, I got this barn. And in my barn, I have cages where I keep humans.
What? Tell me you heard that too. Okay. I want to insert the dung dung like Law and Order sound just then. I'm assuming he is going to use this as a metaphor. But I'll tell you what, that is one way to open up a speech. I don't know that I've had that immediate a reaction to a TEDx talk in quite a while. So, all right, you have a barn, and in this barn you have cages, and in these cages you keep people. I don't know if you look the type. It is always the quiet ones, but let's continue.
And some of these humans I have working for 23 cents an hour. And the ones who can't work just sit there.
Yeah.
And if they want to call their families,
yeah,
they get a phone call a week.
Uh-huh. This guy's going to be licking his lips a lot, isn't he? I can just tell already. Thank you, Point Curation. There is no punchline. No, there is no punchline. He's, a very, very cheap metaphor. But, okay. Lick your lips some more.
About 15 minutes. And that cost about $5. For those who work, that means about 20 hours of work to make that phone call.
And let me guess. They are undeserving of these restrictions, right? They haven't done anything that might have, I don't know, indemnified them to society to pay off a debt of some kind, perhaps.
Sometimes I let them visit family members, but they're not allowed to touch them. If they get sick, I give them Tylenol.
Yeah, I think they get a bit more medical attention than that, depending on the circumstances. But yes, again, this is not a very good metaphor. Anyway.
But if they get real sick, they get the bare minimum medical treatment to keep them alive.
Yes. And about all that money that they're earning or not earning or whatever, well, they get free room and board, which is a lot more than a lot of people get that aren't in prison.
Sometimes I let them stab each other.
Let them. Okay. Well, I don't know if I have any current or former prison officials or guards in the chat or in the audience, but yeah, tell me how much prisons just love letting inmates stab each other.
Don't provide them any education.
Don't provide them any education. Really? I've heard so many tales of inmates earning their GEDs and elsewise while in prison. So, I mean, I guess it depends on the prison, but thank Boy, the pepper jack is already hitting me. Thank you, Pinkalo, the driving ape man. Already, I hate this guy. Well, I don't hate him. I'm curious as to where he's going with this, though.
And if they misbehave, I stick them in a room by themselves 23 hours a day and let them out for maybe an hour to see the sunlight.
Yes. Well, I don't know if this man's ever worked in a prison. And honestly, I don't know this guy's background. Hopefully he'll tell us something. I don't know if he is an expert in something or simply an activist or an academic. I'm completely blank. So I don't know where he's coming from on this subject.
Take a shower.
Yeah, well.
And I make money off of them too.
Yeah, you know why?
I get the state to pay me hundreds of thousands of dollars, actually $20,000 a year to keep these people in cages.
Okay. We're talking about for-profit prisons then? Okay, maybe, I'm assuming.
And so I'm making money hand over fist.
Are you?
My barn.
Okay.
If that were true, you'd want to put me in a cage.
Why? Would you then be forced to work for very little money? And okay, so the crime is for-profit prisons, I'm assuming, or at least that's going to be one of the complaints. I've always been curious, how profitable are for-profit prisons? I mean, is it? I mean, obviously, if it's a business, it has to make a profit. That's just the terms of the deal. But is it like really that lucrative? Is there no liability insurance, etc., the overhead, and on and on and on? I don't know.
But that's one of the problems I'm here to talk about today, is this problem of human caging.
Human caging, or in another term, criminal incarceration. But okay.
What's the magnitude of this problem? Well, when I was born, there were about 260,000 people in cages. 40 years later, there are now 2.2 million people in cages.
I don't know when you were born. And yeah, okay.
Now, there was not a huge crime wave. There was not a sudden idea in the American mind to suddenly go commit crimes and get put in cages.
Okay. So what is the explanation?
In fact, the rate of violent crime dropped. over the course of those years. And what happened was we turned things into crime that ain't crime.
Oh, well, okay. Now, if he's going to talk about like minor drug possession and stuff like that, things that would effectively now be ignored because of legalization of marijuana in several states, I'm not necessarily in disagreement with him on that. You know, there were a lot of things and a lot of crimes that should probably not have been when it comes to like marijuana specifically. But then it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about massive trafficking or anything related to the drug sales and on and on. But yeah, okay.
Things like drug addiction.
I don't think drug addiction is a crime. Possession of drugs and or drug paraphernalia can be a crime, but addiction in and of itself is not a crime. Anyway, I know I'm nitpicking, but I can't help myself.
Poverty.
Poverty. Oh, I didn't know we operated debtors' prisons. Do we operate debtors' prisons, everyone? I had missed that one. Boy, I feel suddenly very Dickensian if that were the case.
Things like driving without a license and littering and urinating in public.
Driving without a license. Driving without a license, what? It wasn't a crime or shouldn't be crime? A crime? What? What? Littering? Do we lock up people for littering short of like leaving 17, like, I don't know, rusting cars on your front yard or something? I mean, you're cited at worst, unless it's like public urination and you're exposing yourself, and then it's something completely different. But driving without a license should not be a crime. Okay? Is this guy a sovereign citizen by any chance?
And at the same time we criminalized more crimes, we also...
Wait, criminalized more crimes? I'm sorry. I know. I'm nitpicking.
Increased the length of time people did for those crimes. And we created 3 strikes laws. So
Yeah.
if you had drugs 3 times, then you do 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and I will agree that under certain circumstances, the 3 strikes mandate, no consideration laws were ridiculous. You know, a guy commits what, like 2 grand theft autos, and then he gets caught having stolen a bike, and that bike gets him life in prison, kind of thing. Yeah, there should be more judicial discretion depending on the circumstances. So 3 strikes laws, I can't say that I'm that big a fan of, honestly, but okay.
At the same time, we targeted people of color to fill up our cages.
Oh, we did. All right. Well, show me the institutions that specifically mandated arrest people of color, and I will happily join you in a giant class action lawsuit on behalf of the state against such institutions. Sorry, Jim says he's a law professor. He's a law professor. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Drew W. No victim, no crime. Government is not a victim. Again, depending on what he was talking about specifically, I could agree with him. But driving without a license, not being insured, etc., that's a crime. I don't know what to tell you. Everybody else has to do it. It's the law. Officer Buck Tudrizzle, driving without a license, which lead to the person being discovered as an illegal alien, which isn't a crime to some people. Yeah. Yeah, so again, maybe there's some points on which I could agree with this guy, depending if he gets into specifics, maybe, you know, but it all depends on context, circumstances. All right, but anyway, people of color, are we targeted? All right.
Although people of color make up 37% of our population, they compose 67% of our humans in cages. I'll give you an example.
Whoa, that was a sudden cut. I wonder what we missed. But okay, give me an example. I love getting specifics. Give me an example.
If the Durham police were sitting around trying to figure out where they are going to set up an undercover buy, where they're going to go do a drug sale to try to get somebody arrested for drugs,
they're going to go to those parts of town that are known to be frequented by drug dealers. That did I spoil it?
It'd probably be over here in East Durham.
Okay.
They would not go to Duke, where there are drugs, and set Duke students up for undercover buys.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know what goes on in Durham. So there are no drug buys, drug enforcement in Duke. Okay. I mean, he's a law professor. He must know. Is he a Duke law professor? I don't know.
In fact, if a Duke student's found with drugs, they are referred internally, which is a euphemism for they don't go to court.
Are all Duke students white then? I mean, if you're going to make the contrast between people of color and Duke students,
because they know that the cost to individuals charged with crimes is catastrophic. It inflicts a permanent disability.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get a job. If you go to jail, what happens to my job? Then I lose my housing. What happens to my kids? All kinds of costs that we don't measure.
Okay, again, if we're talking about simple drug possession, depending on the circumstances, depending on the drugs, etc., I don't necessarily have a problem with it being a citation versus it being a, major crime. I think simple possession of drugs, that kind of thing, should not be an eternal scar on someone's life. I do believe that. But then he hasn't gotten any more specific than that, so I don't know what else to say.
They do measure the cost of the $20,000 or $30,000 they're paying me to keep them in my barn, but they do not measure the collateral consequences of having 2.2 million people in jail and what that means to their family.
Okay. Well, again, if we're just talking about simple possession, I might be on his side. If he's talking about crime in general, sorry. If you commit a crime, you're rolling the dice on your freedom, on your liberties, on your family situation, and on and on and on. I can have sympathy for people who commit a crime that may be overwrought with penalties and punishments in proportion to what the actual crime was, like simple possession of drugs. Okay, sure. Beyond that, or things as minor, generally speaking, again, it's difficult for me to have a whole lot of sympathy if somebody goes and commits a crime that gets them jail time and restricts their rights or deprives them of their family and so on, because they made a choice. At the end of the day, it's about making a choice. Thank you, Drew W. Duke don't report drugs like they don't report rape. Yeah, because, Duke University has never dealt with a rape scandal. All right.
Jail does not work.
Okay, then what is your alternative?
As a way of solving our problems.
Okay.
One of the problems with jail is that it's downstream from other systems of care.
Okay.
Systems like education.
Oh.
They got this problem about suspending and expelling children from school.
Did they suspend and expel them because they were doing something illegal or violent or cheating or something else? If we're going to talk about school, are we going to talk about parents by any chance?
A lot of smart people trying to figure out, how do we keep kids in school?
Lots of kids are in school. Lots of kids stay in school. Lots of very smart kids go on to commit crimes. What does keeping kids in school have to do with it?
Because the studies show that if people are removed from school, their likelihood they will end up in the cage increases exponentially.
Or the individuals are predisposed for whatever reason to acting out against the rights and safety of others and subsequently put themselves into a criminal situation and end up in jail. Unless you're going to tell us it's the school's fault that some people decide to become criminals and the majority do not. Because I don't think the numbers are on your side on that one.
There's a lot of hand wringing, a lot of smart people. How do we keep our kids in school?
Put them in cages. Oh, no, that's not the solution. Give them every opportunity, encourage them, and then if they still act out in such a way that makes them a problem for the school, like being violent towards other students or cheating or skipping school because of family. But we can't consider the family aspect because obviously the parents don't have any part in any of this. No, that's separate. It's the school's responsibility to raise children to be law-abiding citizens. It is the school's responsibility to raise children to be law-abiding citizens. You know, that notion is not exactly an unpopular one, especially if you look at teachers in schools today who believe that it is their edict to shape the ideological purity of the students underneath them. And I'm not kidding. If you've seen some of my previous videos, TEDx talks and otherwise, or Curriculum of Fear, it's almost as though the schools and certain teachers think that a parental influence is almost superfluous to the imperative of the teacher shaping the mind and outlook of the students. I know I got off on a bit of a tangent there, but this mindset reminds me of that. All right. Okay. Moving on.
I figured it out.
Oh, you figured it out. Oh, well, blanket me with your wisdom. Oh, law professor guy.
Don't kick him out.
Okay. So kid is violent towards other students. Now, you know, beats up other kids, bullies other kids, puts other kids in physical danger. Let's just say that's the case. Now, why the kid does that, what might be going on at home, even though it's obviously irrelevant. Okay, but just keep the kid in school. Just ignore the danger the kid poses to other students, put other students' safety at risk on the chance that kicking this kid out of school may eventually result in that kid going to jail. So it's sort of a reverse Minority Report kind of thing. Okay. Sounds brilliant. Brilliant. Look at all that enthusiastic clapping, especially that girl in the orange shirt there in the front row. She is so happy. Gosh, I would really love to know why this makes her so happy.
Also in my cages are people who need mental health treatment, people who are sick.
Yeah.
We disassembled our mental health providing system. We stopped funding it. And now we look to our jails to help people with mental illness and addiction.
So there are no mechanisms, institutions, organizations, no outlets in criminal justice systems, again, varies state by state, for mental health issues and or addiction issues. There are no intervention type programs in certain states that allow someone to pursue, say, treatment for their addiction in exchange or in place of incarceration, or seeking out mental health assistance in situations where someone's proven to be mentally incompetent or mentally impaired. None of that exists. All of it's been defunded. There are no alternatives. Again, I understand it is a state by state, jurisdiction by jurisdiction thing. But I don't know if he's talking about his local situation or if he's talking nationally, because so far he's been talking nationally. So I digress.
I got a solution to that one. Provide mental health.
Ooh, brilliant. Just wave your hand, provide mental health. Great. I can do that too. I'm waving my hand if you can't hear it.
We got a housing problem.
Oh.
People can't make a living on minimum wage.
Okay.
Housing prices are going up.
Uh-huh.
So people are pushed to homelessness or living in places that are not safe or healthy.
And this is a suddenly new situation, homelessness, poverty. This is okay. Thank you, Spider-Man. Is he going to argue for asylums? I don't know what he's arguing for so far, except for saying provide mental health. Like, okay, that's really relatively broad suggestion. I'm waiting for him to tell us what his alternative proposal is, because it's one thing to say, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem, this is a problem. It's like, you could be correct. He could be entirely correct. All of these things are problems. Now, if you have no alternative solution to propose or offer, well, then you don't have a better idea than what's currently going on, I guess. Now, we're only 6 minutes into this 15-minute talk, so maybe he'll get to his proposals later. I hope so, or else this will be an entirely futile endeavor, which, of course, is not common for TEDx talks.
And when those things combine, people lose their housing, or they're kicked out of school, or they're not treated for the illnesses they have, then they end up in my barn.
Yes, a whole chain of horrible, unfortunate series of events have to take place to end up in your barn. And all of them are the fault of everyone else except the individual in the situation. All of those circumstances, everything that led to that point of someone ending up in your barn has nothing to do with the actions, the decisions, the choices of the individual. Is that what I am meant to understand?
One of the things I can't do when I sleep at night, I look at the jail list.
You look at the jail list while you're trying to go to sleep? Well, okay, Rule 34, I guess.
Durham County Jail. And I make a list of the people who probably shouldn't be in jail.
Oh, okay. Probably shouldn't be in jail. You make a list. All right, incarceration Santa Claus, what do you do with this list?
Like Reginald in our Durham County Jail for littering.
Okay. How long was he incarcerated for? What kind of littering? I don't know. I don't know what the laws are in Durham County for littering and what kind of jail time you can expect. I honestly don't know. I mean, maybe it's ridiculous. Maybe it is unfair. I don't know.
Michael in jail for begging. Teresa, Charles, Joshua, Robert, Lena for driving while license revoked.
Driving while license revoked. Right. Well, if you have to have a license and your license is invalid and you're driving, you're breaking the law. What is the shocked look on the face of the lady next to the girl in the orange shirt? Why? And the shocked face is on a couple of them, but specifically that lady in the orange, next to the lady in the orange shirt. Why does she look shocked? Someone driving with a revoked license. Why was it revoked? Was it revoked because of a DUI? Was it revoked because she hurt somebody? Why was it revoked? And if she's driving on a revoked license, she doesn't have a license to drive, like every state in the union requires. What is? Oh, boy, oh boy. Pinkala the Driving Ape Man. I got it. He's Zed from Pulp Fiction. No, Pinkalo. Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead. But he does have a very impressive accent. I will give him that. Somebody said something just before. John Smith said, Scribe, he is right. Our county, I think he meant county, but I don't know. Our county jail has a whole wing for the mentally ill. Okay. Do they get no mental health care treatment while they're there? If they're being separated because they're mentally ill, then there's some consideration for their being mentally ill, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't know what the policies or the institutions are like state to state, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. I will not deny that there are probably, more likely than not, a lot of places in the country that could be doing a better job or that treat people unfairly in some situations versus others. No system is perfect. Our justice system is no exception. But to state flatly that there is no mental health treatment in incarceration institutions or prison institutions or anything else, it just strikes me as a little bit of a broad statement, and maybe one that's probably incorrect. But again, I digress.
I saw Greg, and I know Greg because I used to represent Greg. I had this phase where I was representing all the panhandlers in Durham.
Oh, you were a lawyer. Okay.
And Greg, I met him when he was yanked out of a car that he was sleeping in Harris Teeter parking lot, and they broke his arm. The police did.
Okay.
And I went down to Duke Hospital to visit Greg, and I was all worried, Greg's going to be angry and hurt. And he was like living high. Like, I got the pillow, I got the food, you can walk out, give me a cigarette. But that's not how Greg deserves to be treated. So I saw Greg's name on the list.
Greg doesn't deserve to be treated like a human being. No. Okay, so Greg was injured, rightly, wrongly, otherwise by the police. I don't know the circumstances. And he's given a pillow and a place to recuperate and to heal and medical treatment, etc. That's not how Greg deserves to be treated. Okay.
Before I came over here, and he's been in jail for 20 days for having a shopping cart from Target.
So he stole property then?
And he rolled it out from Target at his corner to keep his stuff in.
So he stole it. He stole someone else's property. Got it.
In 20 days.
20 days in jail for stealing a shopping cart. I don't know his priors. I don't know his previous history of crime. Maybe it was warranted, depending on the circumstances. I don't know unless you tell me some more about the situation. But less than a month in jail for a shopping cart, I could be convinced that it's not egregious, depending on how many times he's stolen shopping carts in the past. You know, there's only so much we can do as a society to try to dissuade people from committing, let's say, the same crime over and over again. So how many times, and I know I'm just guessing here, but how many times has he done this or similar things in the past? Might I ask?
Jerome's in jail for intoxicated and disruptive.
Uh-huh.
That also would describe many of our friends over at Duke.
Oh, so college students who are drunk and disruptive never get cited and or arrested by police, you say? Or imply. Okay.
Emil spent 3 days for shoplifting. That means Emil didn't even get out of the shop with the stuff Emil was trying to take.
What? No. Come on. That is going to be your standard. You first must cross the threshold of the store before a theft is legitimately a theft. Come on, man. No. Okay, now you're insulting my intelligence. I might not have much right now with a pepper jack in me, but that is insulting my intelligence.
And Mary spent 12 days for possession of drug paraphernalia, which meant they didn't even find drugs. They just found, a pipe.
Is possession of drug paraphernalia a crime? In Durham County, is possession of drug paraphernalia a crime? Yes or no? If the answer is no, then she's being treated unfairly. If the answer is yes, she's being treated as according to the law. Now, do I personally agree that possession of drug paraphernalia alone should be some serious crime? Probably not. All by itself? Probably not. Again, I'm like, the relative, it hasn't taken countrywide yet, let's say, but the relative legalization of marijuana in several states is something I do not oppose in any way, shape, or form. I always thought that marijuana use was right up there with alcohol and cigarettes, etc. Tax it, regulate it, make illegal the use of it while you're driving and operating heavy machinery and so on. No different than alcohol, etc. But each state and, descending from that, each county and so on, have the sovereign ability to make the laws they wish to make. So, is it illegal to possess drug paraphernalia in Durham County? If the answer is yes, then she was breaking the law. I don't know what else to tell you. Change the law. Advocate to change the law. I'd be completely in agreement with you if you want to decriminalize simple possession of drug paraphernalia. I'd be right there with you. So if you think that's unfair, I might be on the same page. It's true.
So this is how we're using jail here in Durham. And what I'm here to do is to try to ask you to reimagine justice.
Well, that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm here to listen to, and I'm waiting for your reimagining to take place, because so far you haven't offered any specific alternatives to what we have. And while I will readily admit that what we have is not perfect, as no system is perfect, if you're going to go for the restorative justice territory, I don't know what to tell you. If you're going to go for decriminalizing minor drug possession or possession of drug paraphernalia, etc., by itself, I might be on board with you, depending. All depends on the specifics and so on. But in theory, I'm not necessarily on the other side of the river from you.
What would justice look like?
I don't know.
What would it be like if all those people were your people? If
Uh,
that was your sister and your brother and your mom and your dad.
Okay, and I know I've said this more or less so far, but he really needs to nail down what crimes, what level of crimes, what specific violations he wants to make decriminal, or he wants to decriminalize, I should say. Because so far he's been very nebulous about what it is. If he's talking about victimless, minor, citation level in most places kind of crimes that are horribly punished in Durham County, but are otherwise minor to nothing burgers everywhere else, maybe I'd agree with him. I don't know, but he's got to give me some more specifics, because he started out by just saying incarcerating people is bad. And I'm like, no, incarcerating people all by itself is not inherently bad. Punishing students who do something in school is not inherently bad. He's all over the place. And if he actually is a lawyer, if he's actually a law professor, I would hope he would understand the importance of specificity and context. So far, not doing it for me.
What would happen if you cared for them the way you care for your own?
I can't. I can't. I don't know anybody that can. I mean, trying to care about someone the same way you care about your close family member, I don't think that's possible. Now, that's not to say there aren't people out there who are exceedingly charitable and exceedingly empathetic and exceedingly kind and so on. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who can be empathetic across the board to everybody. Let me correct myself. It's not that I don't think it's possible. I don't think that it's common. I don't think that it's easy to see someone outside your immediate circle the same way as you see someone in your immediate circle. So, especially people who commit crimes. But again, I don't know what kinds of crimes you're talking about. So far, you've mentioned specifically littering, public urination, driving without or with a revoked license, or minor possession of drugs and drug paraphernalia. Again, if that is where you're limiting your criticism to, maybe I'd be on board with you depending on the circumstances of those situations. But anyway.
What would justice look like?
I don't know. Tell me.
We got a glimpse of that here in Durham when a young man had a gun out in his apartment and it accidentally went off and shot a young woman below.
He was recklessly brandishing a gun and he shot somebody. Okay, I'll take you at your word that it was an accident. But he still had the gun out. He still put his finger on the trigger. I presume it was his gun, but even if it wasn't, he was in control of the firearm at the time. Got it.
A girl, a child.
A child. He shot a child. Got it.
And ordinarily, our system asks two questions. Who done it? And how much do we punish that person?
No, it's usually who done it and what was their motive. Actus reus, mens reus. I might be mispronouncing those. They're Latin. But, the action of the crime and the motivation of the crime. Did he intend to shoot this person? Was it premeditated? Was it accidental? Was it recklessness? Or was it intentional? Those are the two questions we ask. How we punish them comes after they've been given due process. This guy's a law professor? Okay.
Crime and punishment.
That is a novel. It's true. Or a giant book, I should say.
Hammer and nail.
Somewhere in between that, there's something called due process. Now, I don't know if you're aware of that, speaker, presumed law professor, but there's a thing called due process. Determining the nature of the crime, putting that person through the due process of law, justice, a judge, a jury, etc., and then, after the outcome of all of that, deciding, if it applies, what the punishment shall be based on the totality of the circumstances of the crime committed. Now, I might be simplifying it a little bit, but not too much. So tell me more about this accidental shooting of a child, or are you just going to leave that drop?
But when all we have are hammers, everything looks like a nail.
Oh, come on.
And so what would have happened to him is that he would have gone to jail for a very long time.
And he didn't?
But folks here in Durham are working on restorative justice.
There we go. Okay. See? Restorative justice. So is then you're going to take the child that was shot accidentally by someone so irresponsible that they were playing around with a gun and shot a kid. Are you going to put them both in a room and the kid is going to be forced to have to listen to the guy's sob story over how sorry he is, etc.? He'll never do it again. And that should be put in place of punishment or incarceration or a deprivation of rights because of his inability to respect the rights of others. I know maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but you'll forgive me. A kid was shot.
Which is a fancy word for an old idea about being together in community and resolving our conflicts together.
Yes, resolving our conflicts together. Accidentally shooting a kid with a gun you chose to grab, a gun you chose to hold in your hand, a gun you chose to put your finger on the trigger of. All of these things, decisions that someone consciously made leading up to the shooting of a child. But let's just talk it out. Got it.
And so that process asks different questions. It asks the question, how have you been harmed?
I was shot.
What can we do to help you?
Give me medical attention. Take out the bullet. Make sure I don't bleed to death.
Person who's been harmed. When the victim shows up in court.
Did you just put air quotes when you said victim? I'm going to rewind a couple seconds. Did this guy just put air quotes at the word victim when his anecdote is about a child being shot?
What can we help you? Person who's been harmed. When the victim shows up in court.
He did. He just put air quotes around victim when the preceding anecdote was a child who was shot. Okay. Thank you, tall person. Hoy, all. Just got home from work. I will watch in full later. Happy National Aperitif Day, everybody. That is an alcoholic beverage had before a meal. Thank you, tall person. Well, you know what that means? That means that my pepper jack is an aperitif because I haven't had lunch yet. So, accidentally, I've been celebrating this day already without knowing it. Great. Let's return to our air quotes victimhood law professor already in progress.
They're there to testify for the state.
No, they're there to testify about what happened to them. The state is their advocate. The state is the buffer between vigilantism and actual hopeful civil justice. Okay, I'm not a law professor. I am a complete layman when it comes to this. But chat, tell me, am I wrong when I say that?
Many times that never happens, and no one sits down and asks the person who's been harmed, how have you been harmed?
I was shot. I almost bled to death. I could have died immediately from the shot. The nature of the crime describes the kind of injury. You preceded this with someone getting shot. I mean, oh man. Okay. I think I might actually have just blown a gasket in my brain.
And then it asks the question to the person who caused the harm, why did you do what you do?
Because I was, and I'm being generous here, given the anecdote he gave us without any more details. Why did I do the harm that I did? Because I was an idiot with a gun that I either did own and was thus my property and my responsibility, or that I didn't own and I'm still responsible because I picked up the gun.
Why did you do that?
Because I'm stupid. Because I'm reckless. Because I have a disregard for the safety of others. You know, all of those things that lead up to a crime being convicted of a crime. Jesus.
What things in your life pointed you in the direction of doing that harm that you caused?
That is irrelevant. You know, short of proving some kind of trauma, some kind of mental illness, etc. Whatever events preceded that guy picking up a gun, putting his finger on the trigger and firing the bullet, accidental or otherwise, that then hit a child is irrelevant. I don't know what else to say without more information about his example, which has preceded all of this commentary. And so I can only assume from context that he is referring back to the most immediate anecdote that he cited. It just... Okay. Thank you, John Miller. If he were my lawyer, I would try to defend myself or find someone else. At least then I would have a chance. I mean, if he's going to try to downplay and dilute and distract and divert all blame away from his client, he might be a good defense lawyer. I don't know. But as far as a law professor, as far as I don't know, just a observer of fact and law in general, I don't know. But I certainly don't agree with him.
And can you accept responsibility for that harm?
Yeah, I can accept responsibility for that harm by pleading guilty and accepting whatever sentence the court lays upon me for having shot a child. That might be the way. And not just talking it out with the person I shot.
And meet that person and talk to them about it.
And that is to replace punishment elsewise? I mean, this is the thing about restorative justice that I've seen over and over again. It seems to be the case that in replacement of incarceration from society, in replacement of punishment that might deprive them of rights that they deprived others of in the course of their actions, that it should be totally replaced with talking it out. I'm waiting for him to tell me that a rapist or a murderer should be given a talking to in place of confinement. I'm always waiting for that exception. Some have made it, most have not.
And the third thing it asks is of the community. How is the community harmed?
Well, the community around that child was shattered by some reckless idiot who shot a gun, because all of them could probably think to themselves, that could have been me, or that could have been my child. Why would I want that person anywhere near me or anyone else? Maybe.
And what can the community do to heal that harm? And how can the community participate in that process?
Our tax dollars at work in prosecuting the individual and seeing that they get a fair trial? Maybe.
And what happened was groups of people went to the person who was harmed and their family and talked to them about how they were hurt.
So groups of people went to the family of the shot child and talked to them about how they were hurt. Got it.
Groups of people went to the person who caused the harm and asked those questions. Why'd you do it? How'd it happen?
Were these groups of people police officers or district attorneys by any chance? These were just groups of people that just sort of spontaneously from the community decided to investigate on their own how the victim was harmed and why the perpetrator did what they did. Got it.
The community came together and they had a circle process in which what they resolved was this person should not go to jail.
Oh, so the community decided this person should not go to jail for having recklessly fired a handgun and shot a child. Okay, well, by all means, what did the community decide?
This person should make toys for kids in waiting rooms.
What? What?
This person should go talk about gun safety.
So you are still talking about your anecdote. I mean, I wasn't sure if you just like threw out that anecdote randomly and just kind of left it behind. No, you're still talking about the guy with the gun who shot a child, and the community decided he should make toys and talk about gun safety. Okay.
Communities. This person should not go to jail. This person's not disposable. They do not belong in a human cage in my barn.
Was the child disposable? Does that child not deserve some kind of justice? That defenseless, innocent child who, through no fault of their own, got shot by an idiot with a gun? What does the child deserve? What does the child's family deserve in relation to the perpetrator, might I ask?
And so, if we imagine justice that way.
Now, hold on. What happened to this guy? I don't think the community of extrajudicial vigilante justice court actually decided this guy's fate. I don't think he actually ended up being sentenced to making toys and talking about gun safety. What actually happened here? Are you going to tell us? I have a feeling you're not. Now, thank you, Drew W. What if the community decided to hang him? Exactly. I mean, you're going to leave it up to the community to dole out justice. That's why we have due process. That's why we have a justice system. It is the insulation between mere accusation and actual evidence. It is the insulation between vigilantism and civil justice. It is not a perfect system. It will never be a perfect system. But leaving the discretion of justice up to a community of people in the nearby territory? Really? That's what you're advocating for. Because like Drew said, what if they had decided this guy should have his feet cut off and his tongue ripped out? I mean, the community decided it, so it should be fine, right? He doesn't need to be sent to prison. He just needs to be horribly maimed. Well, that's justice, isn't it? Because the community decided it? Is that really the standard that you are advocating for, sir?
It really is about being in community with each other and treating our conflicts as an opportunity for us to learn more about each other.
Oh, come on. You cannot be promoting this kumbaya BS. Come on. Okay, all right. And again, I've said this nearly every time I've done one of these videos on restorative justice. Tell me what happens in the case of a rapist. Tell me what happens in the case of a child molester. Tell me what happens in the case of a murderer. I want to know how restorative justice applies to rape and murder. I want to know how restorative justice stands in replacement of incarceration in the cases of rape and murder.
And to strengthen the ties that connect us.
Uh-huh.
And not dispose of people because of the single worst mistake they've made.
Again, it all depends on the context. Do I think someone who is in possession, minor possession of narcotics, marijuana or otherwise, should that single instance stain their entire existence? No. But you haven't given us any sense of proportion about what you are talking about. So I don't know if you're talking about simple possession of drugs or littering or reckless firearm use that results in the shooting of a child. There doesn't seem to be any limit to what you want to apply this to. So what are you talking about? Okay, the long dramatic pause is doing so much for me right now.
It reminds me of a quote by Dr. Martin Luther King.
Oh, come on. Oh, Jesus.
Where he was talking about justice.
Yeah.
And he said, power without love is abusive and reckless.
Tell me about the crimes of murder and rape. Tell me how much love you want to apply to a rapist, how much love you want to apply to a murderer. I am all ears.
He said, love without power is anemic and sentimental.
Uh-huh.
He said, power at its best is justice, implementing the demands of love. And justice at its best is power, correcting everything that stands against love.
Was he talking about justice in the realm of criminal justice, or was he talking about justice as far as equal treatment? Was he talking about the criminal justice system, or was he talking about egalitarianism in the absence of a consideration of skin color? Are you going to even bother giving context to King's words, or are you just going to retrofit them to somehow apply to your argument? Because I have a feeling it's just going to be the latter.
And by defining justice in terms of how we use power to become a more whole community, that's how we reimagine justice.
No. You need to give us specifics. Someone commits the crime of rape. How does restorative justice act at that point? Until you give me a specific step-by-step example of a serious crime being addressed by restorative justice, you are talking in nothing but abstract platitudes. Thank you, John Miller. I don't think he has ever focused on actual justice. I don't know what he's focusing on. This has been the most scattershot, quote-unquote, argument trying to support or advocate for the idea of restorative justice. I don't even know where he's going or to what extent he thinks that this applies. Because like I say, this has run the gamut from littering all the way up to reckless firearm use. So where are we going? How would you do it? Community-based justice, vigilante justice is what you're advocating for. He gave a very specific example. The community came together and decided what this guy's punishment should be. Never mind the law, never mind the state, never mind the general welfare of the community at large. No. The immediate community decided what justice would be. So reimagining justice in this guy's mind is vigilante justice. Okay, just want to make sure I understand it.
And so what can you do?
I don't know.
Find a circle.
Find a circle?
At every stage of our broken society, in the criminal justice system, in housing, in education, in healthcare, at every stage, there is a more humane way to treat our brothers and sisters.
Tell me what that humane way is in regards to a rapist, in regards to a murderer. Tell me. I am waiting to be educated.
And it's being in community. It's being in circles.
Being in community, being in circles, that alone will improve healthcare, the justice system, and housing. I didn't know it was that simple.
Even before someone's arrested, they could be sent to a circle.
Before someone is arrested, they could be sent to a circle. Please go on.
To talk about the thing that they committed.
So you want to send someone who has not yet been arrested to go to a circle and admit to the crime they're being accused of without due process. So you're going to assume the guilt of the accused prior to due process and send them to a circle to talk out the crime they are alleged to have committed. Is that what I am to understand?
And even after arrested, before they're charged and plead guilty or not guilty, they could have a circle.
Before they plead guilty or not guilty, they can go to a circle to talk about what they committed. What if they claim innocence in the circle? Then what happens? Whether they're being truthful or not, then what happens? And if a circle is just an intermediary step to our justice system, if the circle does not somehow replace or mitigate our justice system, then what the hell is the point of the circle?
And if they're found guilty and there's time for sentencing, instead of hammer and nail, we could have a circle.
Oh, so you want the circle to precede and succeed the criminal justice system as it currently stands. I sentence you to a circle. Is that what I am to understand?
Even in prison, we could run our prisons based on circles. And
you want to keep prisons? Because I could have sworn that the first half of this conversation, this presentation, was in the claim of the inefficacy of prisons. Oh, so prisons are still okay. Oh, okay.
And if there's an infraction, a detention officer could sit down in community with that prisoner and they could talk.
So they're still in cages, but now they get to be in cages in a circle. Okay.
And learn about each other.
Oh, yeah.
And when coming home out of prison, these folks who have been permanently disabled by the collateral consequences of our criminal justice system.
The collateral consequences of our criminal justice system. Oh, I love alliteration.
We can give them circles of support. So when they have to go to court and get their traffic ticket fixed, when they have to have somebody watch their kid while they go try to get a job or need a ride to an interview, then they have community around them and they are not isolated by that permanent disability.
Okay. No, that's not me in assent here. I don't know what to say.
And so sitting here.
You're not sitting. Oh, are you talking to the audience maybe? I mean, I'm sitting here, such as it is.
In Durham, knowing we have these humans in cages.
Uh-huh. Who you advocate should still necessarily be put in cages, just circle cages.
I want you to feel the real urgency of that.
Okay.
I want you to feel the human catastrophe of solitary confinement.
Okay, I'm feeling it.
Children.
You want me to feel the catastrophe of solitary confinement? Well, I hate to tell you this, person who was speaking back in 2018 or whatever, a lot of us are feeling the catastrophe of solitary confinement right now. You couldn't possibly know this. I don't hold this against him. But a lot of us, in certain ways, are getting a taste of what solitary confinement is. The thing is, most of us haven't done anything to deserve it.
In youth homes, in cages.
Youth homes? What?
And that's not how we don't have to be that way.
You're right. We don't have to, but you haven't offered an alternative. You even included prisons in your own example. So what is the alternative?
We are way better than that as human beings, and we're much stronger when we are in love with one another and not disposing of each other.
And so how will you treat the rapist? How will you treat the murderer? I'm waiting.
So instead of criminalizing poverty and throwing folks in jail for things like urinating in public,
poverty is not a crime. We do not have debtors' prisons. I don't know what to tell you about that, Mr. Law Professor. We are not living in Dickensian England.
And criminalizing mental illness and putting people in jail because they're addicts.
I've already said it.
Instead of criminalizing things like not being able to pay my traffic ticket, we should use jail for only those worst offenses.
Whoa. Now, 15 seconds before you're done, you start making distinctions about worst offenses. Where is the line?
That people need a timeout to keep us safe.
Where is the line? I've been waiting for this the entire time.
And for everything else, we need circles and systems of care to make our society the beloved community that it's meant to be. Thank you.
Oh my God. Oh, that was painful. Those last 15 seconds were painful. Because what have I been asking for this entire time? Specifics, a system. Where is the line drawn? Right? If it's like level 4 misdemeanors and down or something is where restorative justice applies. Everything beyond that, once you get into like serious felonies, that's a whole different ball game. It's like, I might not necessarily still agree with that proposal, but I can at least respect that somebody's put some thought into it and said, here's where the line is drawn, where restorative justice might be an option. Or diversionary tactics or some other alternative might be an option. Oh, but only at the last 15 seconds. Well, obviously, reckless endangerment and reckless use of a firearm and reckless assault. Oh, well, that's totally within the rubric of restorative justice. But I'm not going to tell you specifically where the line is, only say sort of abstractly the most serious crimes. What are the most serious crimes? Is shooting somebody not a serious crime? Is shooting a child not a serious crime? Oh, boy. Okay. This is Kyle. Thank you. The line is the circle. All right. Well, I've had my say. Already over time from what I usually do. I try to keep these to about an hour. But this was a long one in relative terms to TEDx Talks. So I'm going to leave the remainder of the time to you, chat. If you have any comments, suggestions, observations, questions, etc., I'll go through a few. And then we'll wrap this up. Scrolling up a bit, Humble Clay says, Scribelight, check out the story of the father who shot his daughter. Quote, a lesson on gun safety ended when a man accidentally shot his 6-year-old daughter, police say, unquote. I mean, I could check out the story. I really don't want to. Children getting shot and the tragedy thereof, especially when it's like the parent who I assume, barring other circumstances, did not intend to harm their child, has to go through not only the agony for the rest of their lives over what they did, but as well, and deservedly so, have to face consequences from the state. Those stories, man. Or like, and I hate to bring it up because it is relatively graphic just in sort of the assessment of it, but how many times have I heard the story of some parent is just backing up out of the driveway to go to work, and they didn't see their tiny little 3-year-old child playing behind them or running behind the truck. Annalyn, who is going to jail for traffic tickets? Even if you don't have $1, the court can put you on a payment plan or plea for community service. I've heard of people doing very brief amounts of time for like egregious traffic ticket unpayment and stuff like that. Yeah, but usually it's like going to jail for a traffic ticket. I mean, I'm sure it happens. In fact, I know it happens, but I'd really love to know the circumstances he was talking about and how prolific a situation it was that it deserves restorative justice. Thank you, Point Curation. Wonder if he also has a barn full of people. Yeah, maybe that wasn't a metaphor. Maybe that was a true story. I don't know. Assassin of the Gray, Scribelight, when they whine about disproportionate sentences of people of color, they conveniently ignore that prior bad acts are being factored in. I mean, like I said before, the guy who stole the shopping cart and he got 20 days in jail. Okay. Was the shopping cart theft his first offense? Was this the latest in a pattern of behavior that he obviously hasn't changed since the last time he got into trouble? And on and on and on. Each case is its own little monster. Each case and each perpetrator, if they are convicted of such, has to be assessed on a multitude of factors. That's why the jury is there. That's why the prosecution is there. That's why the defense is there. That's why we have due process. That's why we put everyone through due process. That it's not just a reflexive decision. That it's not a decision made simply on, a whim by someone who feels bad or who feels angry or whatever. Now, like I've said multitude times, and I'll never stop saying, does that make our system of justice perfect? Does that make every decision that comes down the pike from the system of justice we have agreeable or proportionate or fair? No. Because even with all of the safeguards, even with all of the checks and balances and due process, at the end of the day, the decisions are made by people. And people are inherently flawed. All of the procedures, all of the due process is meant to mitigate, as much as is possible, the inherent failings of human beings, which is why we don't allow for vigilante justice. Does that system of checks and balances fail at times? Yes. Has it failed egregiously at times? Oh, yeah. If you have an overzealous prosecutor and a judge that doesn't care, or a jury that's easily swayed by bullshit, yeah, the system can fail. But it's the best we've come up with. And this guy didn't offer any kind of reasonable alternative. And so far, in every restorative justice talk or presentation or pitch that I've ever heard, I haven't heard of a reasonable alternative being offered. Just that what we're doing is bad. And if only we could talk it out. And I'm like, you know what? I would love it if somehow simply talking it out would reduce the recidivism rate to 0. I wish that could be the case. I haven't seen any evidence that that's the case. Sorry. Annalyn, are things you said in Circle going to be held against you in a court of law? I don't know. I assume in a perfect world it wouldn't be. It would be like, criminally accused anonymous or something. Because, go to the Circle and talk about what you committed. Well, what if I say I'm innocent? Willett Ford, Scribelight, would it make him happier if juries started sitting in circles? Maybe. I don't know. Sar Jim, Scribelight, this is one you needed to start on the pepper jack a lot earlier than usual. I usually take my first drink after I've done the sound check with the audience. Because almost to a 1, TEDx has never let me down for mind-blowing revelations. Aspie Ante, Scribelight, what is your opinion on the Ahmed Arbery case? So based on the information that is available to me right now, the 2 people are guilty of, at best, manslaughter, at worst, second-degree murder. They hunted this guy down. He was unarmed. They did not articulate that they knew that he had committed a crime. There was no evidence that he had immediately committed a crime as far as those two individuals knew. And it really comes down to what they knew and their motivations. And again, I'm going off the information I have right now. I don't know for a fact because something could come out tomorrow. But that man did not deserve to be shot or hunted down or killed. Lethal force was not justified in the situation that I saw or the information that I have about what occurred. Those two men were not law enforcement officers, no matter what their personal histories were. They were citizens, and they were armed, and they were hunting this guy. And he was of no threat to them. They could have tracked him and alerted police to his location by the time they arrived. Jumping out with guns, no. That's my assessment right now. Holy cats! Red Chaos Tree. Thank you so much. That is ridiculously generous. Thank you for that and the city assaulting giant pear, ringing bells and stomping on innocent civilians. I almost feel like that's blood money now, Raid Chaos Tree. But thank you so much. And Sar Jim, thank you so much. Here you go, enough for a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper. Man, I'm going to need it because the TEDx's never stop. Okay. Let's see. Saiyan Wizard. He was not hunted down. Hunted implies they planned to kill him at the end of it. If I track a deer through the woods and I don't kill it, I'm not hunting it? If I'm looking for a particular item in an antique store, I'm not doing any hunting? Okay. Oh, boy. Well, guys. Humble Clay says that's called tracking. Okay, that's called the chase. Bastard Beast, bounty hunters don't intend to kill. Yeah, we're getting into semantics here. I mean, some very interesting semantics, but like I said, that is my assessment of the situation based on the information I have right now. It is a very contentious issue, and I understand that. And I don't begrudge anybody having an alternate opinion necessarily. But based on the information I have, that's my assessment. But anyway, guys, I'm going to end this here because I've gone over time from what I usually intend. And I don't know. I still have not been sold on restorative justice. I keep wanting to be after a fashion. I mean, I like having my mind changed if I'm wrong about something. Right? If more information comes out, or if I'm offered an alternate opinion or a different assessment of something, I'm more than willing to change my mind. But this guy and every restorative justice speaker thus far hasn't really done it. They've glossed over the most pressing questions that I think any reasonable person would ask. Even a reasonable person hopped up on a pepper jack. So, but with that, guys, thank you so much for joining me for this, as you have for so many others. There will be more to come, as usual. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your attendance. And everybody who donated, holy cats, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. Be sure to look for me, Satsu 2 Cents, and Ranting Monkey tonight on Satsu 2 Cents' channel for Lords of the Night, where we'll go over the news of the day and all the extraneous things. Well, maybe not all, depending on time and circumstance, but as many of the extraneous things that you may send us or bring up to us as we have time to do. Again, thank you for joining me. Hope you all are safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I will talk to you. I will talk to you later. My tongue is succumbing to the pepper jack now for some reason. Bye, guys.